Now talk about the 11th hour. It really was a last-ditch reprieve last night when 4 asylum seekers were already on the plane ready to take them to Rwanda under a very controversial new policy by Priti Patel and the Tory government. The High Court, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court had all refused to grant an injunction to stop the plane. But the European Court on Human Rights did grant a stay of execution, a metaphorical execution, for one person who was on the plane, an Iraqi national. What happened was that the other 6 people who still could have been sent out had their cases referred back to tribunals here in the UK late at night, which cited that European court hearing and said they can't go. What that has done is it's put the whole policy into chaos and disarray, and I'm here to try to explain briefly what's going to happen now. Now, the first thing to say is that the Home Office don't actually know what's happening next yet. That is because the decision was made late last night by a duty judge in the EU on papers, and they don't even know the name of the judge. They've only been given 2 sides of A4, and they are trying to track down who this judge is. One Whitehall source even suggested there is a Russian on the court, and there's a 1 in 46 chance that it could be that person, because they don't know which judge it was. The source then hastily added that they weren't being a conspiracy theorist about it, so make of that what you will. Well, however you look at it, the way it works is this. There has never been an injunction from a court that says the flight can't happen. However, there has now been some precedent that individual people can be taken off the flight until there has been a full hearing into whether these flights are legal at all. That will happen in the High Court in July, and the big question is whether or not the Home Office can send these flights to Rwanda before that big court hearing in July. So we've spoken to lawyers who say they pretty much can't send those flights before July, because anyone who is put on them will go to tribunals in the UK and they'll say, look at what the European Court decided. It would just decide the same in this case. And the tribunals would say, okay, we better not risk it. We won't put them on the plane. However, Priti Patel has vowed to press on with this flight. We're told, kind of on background basis, that there could be a flight within weeks, and they're already trying to set up the next flight. So they're suggesting, people in the Home Office, that they're going to send this plane to Rwanda with asylum seekers on it before they have tested in the High Court whether the policy is legal. There's an even more bizarre possible outcome, and that is that if the High Court does find the policy is illegal, and they've already flown people out to Rwanda, the UK has given assurances to the Supreme Court that they would actually fly those people back. So they would get another charter flight and they would bring them back to the UK. Now, we're assured by sources in Whitehall that they don't expect to lose in the High Court, so that won't happen, so that's all okay. But things are not going too well for the policy. If you remember when it was announced, Boris Johnson said that it had the capacity to deal with tens of thousands of people arriving in the UK on small boats and in fridge trucks in the Channel. He argued that it was necessary to send a message to those people smugglers who are putting people's lives at risk by putting them in small boats in Calais. However, what kind of message does it send, the critics say, if you only manage to get a couple of hundred, or even less than that, people sent over per year? And in the meantime, there is some concern that actually the deal does contain a clause where a very small number of people, can come back from Rwanda, where they were refugees there, to the UK as part of a sort of exchange mechanism. Now, Home Office insists this is at a very small scale, but it wouldn't be a particularly good look for what they're trying to do if more people end up coming back here, at least at first, than went over to Rwanda. Now, all of this has many layers of unknowns and many uncertainties. So in the meantime, the Home Office is desperately trying to work out what to do, and Priti Patel has been up in the House saying, being pretty defiant really, essentially berating Labour for criticising the policy, saying that Labour kind of set up the basis for these removals in the first place maybe 20 years ago, and saying that our capacity to help people is not infinite, and that some people are, quote, pretending they are fleeing persecution when they're travelling from a safe country. So whether or not the government is forced to put that down by the courts, you can see quite clearly that despite opposition from charities, Labour, bishops and more, they're going to try and press ahead if they possibly can.